With the Pender E-Bike Lifter, you can easily lift electric bikes up to 30 kilograms onto your car roof. Today, I'll show you how to properly mount and adjust this clever e-bike roof rack and what you need to keep in mind during handling. Inside the package of your Pender E-Bike Lifter, you'll find well-padded a base carrier, a pre-assembled lifting mechanism, a telescopic arm, 2 durable tire guides, a tensioning support tube, and plenty of essential mounting hardware. I think it's great that all the tools required for the assembly are included right inside the box. This means you can get straight to work as soon as you open the package. To begin the process, we need to carefully pre-assemble the main base carrier. You can easily do this in your own workshop. You don't necessarily have to do it at the car. To do this, we insert the lifting mechanism into the base carrier and then fix it with the 3 M6 screws and the self-locking nuts. As previously mentioned, the size 10 wrenches are already included in your kit. Pender specifies a precise torque of 10 Newton meters here, so you can't really break much during this process. Next, we'll focus our attention on the wheel cradles, which are mounted on both sides with 3 individual screws using the size 6 hex key. Please make sure not to mix up the right and left sides. The tip must always point outwards toward the exterior. Also, don't forget to place the spring washer under the screws to ensure it's securely mounted. Let's move over to your car now. Ideally, you'll already have your roof rack mounted. Now carefully place the Pender lifter onto the racks so that it sits perfectly centered between them. The arm of the lifting mechanism must not protrude beyond the width of the vehicle, so please just double check that positioning with a quick look. If it fits, you can now secure the carrier with the 4 U-bolts. I also truly appreciate the fact that we have a particularly wide version here, because especially with aluminum racks like mine, they can sometimes be a bit too narrow for comfort. To protect your rack from theft on the roof, there are 2 specialized anti-theft locking nuts. You can recognize these by the small lock on top. These can be tightened as usual, but can only be loosened again with the matching keys. However, the thread here is a bit shorter than on the other locking screws. Therefore, you might need to place a second spacer under the carrier here. And once you've done that, you can securely tighten all the mounting screws evenly. With the 2 locking nuts, make sure to properly mount them both on the same bolt, as this is the only way your Pender E-Bike Lifter is truly protected against theft. At this point, you can insert the telescopic arm into the lifting mechanism. Once you hear a distinct click, you'll notice it's now securely locked into its position, and you can check it again by pulling. Also, make sure that the mounting device is hanging perfectly straight down. When working with the telescopic arm, make sure to set it at such an angle that this small pipe clamp doesn't close on its own, but is instead folded back like this. Before we can safely lift the bike, we may need to remove the battery pack from the bike, of course, for added safety, and also attach the tension tube between the head tube and the seat post. To do this, first open the quick release and pull out the tube between the seat post and the head tube. Pay attention to the marking for the maximum extension so that you don't exceed it. You can then tighten the whole thing properly using the ratchet so that it sits firmly between the attachment points. Now we can go ahead and hang the bike on it. Make sure it's positioned so that it's suspended freely in the air and, of course, is level. In other words, the wheels must be lifted off the ground by the same amount on both sides. If they aren't suspended freely, it can lead to problems and you won't be able to lift the bike at all. This is the case, for example, if you load your bike on a curb or something similar, so it's best to always work on level ground. Next, you secure your e-bike using the lifting mechanism so that it's firmly connected to the support arm. Once the bike is securely inserted into the support arm's lifting mechanism, you can now set the lever to the free position. Please note that this only works if your e-bike is actually suspended and not touching the ground. If it jams or is hard to open, something isn't adjusted correctly and you should check it again. Normally, the system should now be free and you can easily lift the bike, for example, by the bottom bracket or the motor, and guide it comfortably upwards. The gas struts assist you, making it really easy to do. When the bike is up, you'll hear a clear click and the bike is securely fastened. Once you have completely lifted the bike, it is crucial that the telescopic arm remains vertical and is not tilted forward or backward. This will also be relevant again when tightening. Now we just have to pull the tires into the lower guides and secure them with the ratchets. When tightening the tires, or rather the ratchets for the tires, it's essential to ensure you tighten both at the same time and avoid over-tightening them. Otherwise, we would put the middle telescopic arm in a slanted position again. So really tighten the whole thing on the left and right simultaneously. And then not too tight. It's really enough if it's just fixed in place. And then you're ready to go. If the bike doesn't come down far enough here, for example, because you have a small frame size, then we'll need the extension piece. You simply mount this on the telescopic arm as well between the suspension. This can be the case especially with trekking bikes, gravel bikes, or as mentioned, small frame sizes. When tightening the ratchets after placing the tires in the guide, make sure they sit cleanly on the rim. Now, if necessary, we can secure the crank to the chainstay. A Velcro strap is also included in the delivery for this. I simply didn't use it during my rides. To take down your e-bike if necessary, detach the crank from the chainstay again and guide the bike slightly upwards into the hovering position. Turn the lever back to the free position and now we can easily and carefully pull the bike back down. It's best to firmly grab onto the tires again and shift your grip until it's hovering steadily in place once more. When lifting it down, you don't have to worry at all about it falling or anything like that. If you have the lever in the locked position, you can really do it with minimal effort, and it supports you so much that I can actually, look, I'm holding it with one finger, lift the whole thing down. So there's no effort required, nor do you need to worry about the whole thing falling. Here too, you'll hear a click when the bike is at its lowest point, and you can now open the telescopic arm and simply take the bike out. Now you just have to loosen the tension tube and your bike ride can begin. If you're traveling on the road now, or just don't want to use your bike for a short period of time, you can also unlock the telescopic arm again and, for example, stow it in the boot and only unpack it when needed. Of course, you can also use your versatile Pender E Bike Lifter for your regular bicycle. You just have to make sure to remember that these traditional bikes are sometimes a bit too light to properly trigger the lever mechanism. There is a little trick here. If you find you can't get the lever to turn upwards easily, just try pressing down a bit with your hand on the extension arm, let's say to mimic some weight, and then you should be able to easily switch the lever as usual. This can also be the case if you have a particularly light e-gravel or e-road bike, as some of these barely weigh more than 10 kilograms. If you have any more questions or run into problems during assembly, please write them in the comments and I'll help you out. A detailed test video of what I think of the Pender system and how I liked it in everyday use can be found on our channel. And if you liked the video, then please check out our YouTube channel and subscribe to it.